All right, as you can see, we did drop down to um, back into the zone a little bit lower to get a nicer area for an entry here, which would then give us a 3-to-1, which is awesome. So um, that would be two entries there, and same targets, same stop loss, and everything. And so really now we're just being patient, waiting for this to play out, and we're just gonna see what goes on here. I think we may need to go sideways for a bit before hopefully moving to the upside. I'm not really looking at this as something that could roll over to the downside simply because this where price is currently and this pullback happened above this level as support and pull back into it as support, as opposed to if this would have happened maybe in the zone, not above, or a little bit below the zone, I would have been much more bearish looking at this. But anyway, yeah, just a nice little setup here. So we're going to see kind of how this plays out. I understand you could have maybe move stops up a little bit. Um, that is something that could be done even now, actually. But I'm just I want to be, we've had some pretty big swings here. I want to be a little bit more careful. I'd rather endure a little bit of drawdown than have a stop loss that's way too tight and just get stopped out. So anyway, that's what we're looking at the moment. All right, guys. So a lot of time has gone by here on our trade. Um, we had two great places here for entries, and so you can see. So I wanted to talk about actually an interesting concept. It's really simple, but a lot of people just sort of ignore this. When it comes to stop losses, right? Like I was saying, I believe I said this in the previous video the other day. Is you would I want to I'd rather have a larger stop loss that endures a little bit of drawdown, but it is much less likely to get triggered and hit, and I take a loss as opposed to um, having a super tight, right? I'd rather have a um, much larger stop loss that makes more logical sense than have something that is too tight and much more likely to get stopped out. So um, when we are looking at placing our stops on this trade, right, we talked about um, you know putting it under recent structure, which would be right here. Now let me zoom in a little bit. Um, but I wanted to be a little bit more, um, didn't want to be overly conservative with that stop loss. And really, the point here is you can see we have it just underneath this low here. Um, when you're looking at a long position and you have many higher lows, right? You want your stop loss to be underneath a larger scale higher low, right? Not really something like this. Instead of this, you would want it underneath here, which is what we did. Um, because if we came down and broke below this level, which is a minor level relative to all of this price action here, um, but that didn't um, invalidate our entire position, right? If we would have came down and gotten stopped out here and broken below this low, that is much more likely to completely invalidate the entire position and send us down here and then maybe retest this level as resistance, right? So you want to look, we're on the hourly time frame, right? Which is what I like to look at. But you don't want to just go to the most recent level regardless of how small it is, right? You want to look for a sort of like a swing low or a swing high, which in this case would be this level right here. And so that's why we had our stops there. So yeah, I mean, maybe it could have had a better entry. That is a bit of drawdown, but at the end of the day, there's no reason to have such a tight stop loss and have a 8 or 10 to 1 risk to reward ratio, except you get stopped out 5 times more, 5 times more often. That's not really what you're looking for. You're looking for um, something that logically makes sense. Like I said, I'd rather endure a little bit of drawdown, but have a stop loss that logically makes sense. Where if it does reach this, I no longer am even interested in the position that I was going in, right, with my bias. So anyway, that's kind of what uh, you know what my philosophy is with this. And I mean, at this point, with where we are now, you could easily move this up, maybe underneath here, or even underneath this wick here, which would be for the lower entry, slightly in profit, right? So that's great. But yeah, the markets is opening, has just opened to 7:30, and so yeah, hopefully we're gonna get a good bit of volume. It's been pretty quiet uh, this week, the last couple of weeks really. But if we look where we are here on the daily chart, right, we're still in this massive pattern here. And what I'm hoping does not happen is where we are now ends up just like this peak and just like this peak, because um, we could get a nice swing long position entry if that is the case, but I would just like to um, hopefully eventually get out of this pattern and just break up into new highs, right? I want to see movement like this. Um, you know, we've had some nice trades within this massive range here, but it just hasn't been as it's not been the best movement overall, not the best price action. But yeah, so we're now just waiting to see. Hopefully, we get some more volume. It's the end of the week. Hopefully, we get some volume coming in here. This has been a pretty long trade that we've held, that we've been in. So anyway, I hope I explained that well about the stop loss. Though you don't want to just go to the most recent level and say, oh well, if I have my stop loss down here, I'm only going to lose, this much money. I'm not going to lose any more. But you have to think about it. Then it's more likely that will get hit. So you want it if you are confident in the overall direction and confident on uh, having a nice entry, you can be a little bit more liberal in terms of placing your stop loss. You don't need to have it too close. This isn't a day trade, right? This is, we're trying to catch this swing. I'm not trying to, sit there for fixed amount of time every day. And this is where I've sort of, developed my philosophy slightly differently now over time. I'm not trying to just sit in front of the charts for the same 2 or 3 hours every day and try to get a day trade position within that time frame. I'm looking for much larger swings, and I don't care what time of the day they happen. So if there's a trade opportunity that happens late at night, I want to catch that. If it happens early in the morning, then that's good. Or during the day, it doesn't matter. I want to be there for the big swings. So, like for instance, this yeah, maybe you could have, 2 or 3 small day trades within this move, but I just want to catch the overall movement. I'm not trying to, sit there and just and scalp a small amount of it anymore. That's sort of how I was, but at the moment, I've been just overall being a lot more comfortable, uh, doing this, and so that's kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment. So anyway, like I said, market has opened a couple minutes ago, so hopefully we get enough volume to send us up to this level up here. And then, yeah, we're going to just um, go over, like I said, the higher time frame and just really, really analyze what's going on here. So, yeah. All right. So you can see our trade has progressed a bit more here. So this is an area where obviously we're nearing our target. We're nearly there, but um, this would be a wonderful place to obviously have stops at least at break even. Um, there are a couple areas here where you could move them up, like below here, or maybe even below here if you wanted to be a little bit more, conserve a little bit more of your profit. But um, yeah, overall, a really good trade. We just had to be a bit patient recently. We spoke about this pullback here and the importance of having your stop losses below or above um, major levels that are relevant to where your entry is, right? So, like I said, this us getting stopped out and price moving below here would invalidate this long position here. So, you wouldn't want to just have such a super tight stop loss where, yeah, like I said earlier, you're not risking as much, but you're much more likely to it's much more likely to get hit, right? So, um, anyway, we'll see how this continues here. Obviously, we just have this target up here. It's not that, this is um, this is what we absolutely need to happen. This is just our target. We can sort of adjust things as we go. Um, and yeah, just overall a nice position so far. Like I said, had to have a lot of patience with this one. Recently, as you may see and you may be able to tell watching some of these videos, is I have not been trading as much, and my trades have, for the most part, been lasting a bit longer. Um, and for some people, they may not like that, but for me, that's sort of how um, I'm developing, sort of refining my method. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll typically take a little bit less, or trades a little bit less often, but they will be on, in general, a little bit larger, and you know, by default, then you're taking less losses. So, um, yeah, so that's great. But anyway, not really too much else to talk about regarding this position. Once we get up, we'll see if we can reach this target. It is fairly early in the morning, and so um, market opens in 2.5 hours from now. Um, and so at the moment, we're really just kind of passively observing, right? And you know, I think the highest area you would want to move your stops here would be right underneath this level here at 24.23, or yeah, just under 24.24. So um, anyway, yeah, but we will see how this continues, and hopefully it is a Monday, so hopefully that will bring forth some new opportunities. We can, maybe once we're out of this, um, have a bit more of a discussion about our overall trend here on gold, right? And we did, however, have an interesting start to this weekly candle. Um, we're here on Oanda. I want to take a look at FXCM and a couple other providers, and see, um, how different this is. We have a little bit of, um, you know, some of these candles are look a little bit choppy here, so maybe we can get a chart that has a little bit more volume, right? You can see the disconnect here with some of these candles. So anyway, not a big deal, but I just want to see, maybe looking at a couple other brokers, and see how different the charts look. But I'm generally not a big fan of, in terms of a bullish idea for gold this week. Um, that's still on the table. I'm just not a big fan when we have such a bullish start to the week without a pullback. And so, yeah, we'll just have to go from there. Just kind of take whatever we get. So maybe we can maybe talk about that a little bit more um, once we're out of this position. So anyway. All right, and there we have it. So we have reached and surpassed our target pretty nicely here. Um, I did think a little bit about maybe extending, um, excuse me, extending my target a little bit, maybe up to this high up here, something like this. But at the moment, we're just, completely done with this here. Um, Really, we went over everything previously, but, now we're nearing a much bigger resistance here that we can see. And so really, um, obviously, yeah, you could, in this situation, leave a runner with your, small position of a small percentage of your position still open with stops in profit, maybe below this structure here. But um, at the moment, I'm really just waiting for some sort of larger scale pullback. Hopefully, nothing too crazy, but really, this structure here is nothing that would make us want to get in a long position again. Clearly, we'd want a little bit of nicer structure, but it's also not something that's going to make me want to go short. So, really, just trying to look passively now at the moment. And just sort of go from there. But I hope this video was good. It was a pretty interesting trade, just because when you look, you go back and look at this, we had a good bit of drawdown, and I mentioned a couple of times about, um, more often than not, I see the benefit of having and experience the benefit of having stop losses above or below major recent structure, not just recent structure, but more so major structure. So um, you could have had it just underneath this previous low, and then obviously you would have been stopped out. But really, what you're looking for is just wherever, if that level is broken, your trade will be, your position will be will no longer be valid. So that's sort of what you're looking for. But anyway, we pretty much covered everything else. Reached our target a couple hours ago, but yeah, we were really just targeting this level. Where what I really just look for is areas that have the most traffic within a major zone. Um, and so for here, yeah, obviously you could have had a target, maybe like this somewhere up here. And maybe we still do reach that level, and that's a major resistance going forward. But I typically am just looking for levels that have seen the most traffic, have the most instances of being respected, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So anyway, we're just gonna go from there. Maybe in a little bit, once we can get rid of this, then we can do a much longer term idea on gold, because obviously we are still going to be very bullish on gold unless something drastically changes. But right now it doesn't look like that's the case. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that.